Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for the iTrax Go Participant Time Selection and Release Candidate webinar. My name is Colin McCaddy and I'm the Marketing Specialist here at iTrax. iTrax has been providing online qualitative software for the past 15 years, and we're excited to share information with you about the new and future developments that we have in store. As questions come up, please enter them in the chat area of the GoToMeeting platform. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. Today's webinar presentation will be provided by Robert Buron. Robert is a product manager at iTrax and is responsible for design and oversight of new feature development for iTrax Go. After spending 5 years in business development, Bob uses his client-side experience to position iTrax's development roadmap in a way that adds value and innovates each step of the research process. Clients have expressed appreciation for Bob's extensive knowledge of iTrax technology and how it can be leveraged to improve the speed, efficiency, and value of market research. Robert attended University of Saskatchewan where he obtained a Bachelor of Commerce degree. Take it away, Bob.
Perfect. Thank you, Colin, and thank you to everyone who's taking the time to join us today. Today's webinar is going to be a little bit on the shorter side, so we won't take up too much of your time, but nonetheless, we do have some very exciting information to share with you. So as Colin mentioned, I am a product manager here at iTrax, and I have the unique opportunity to work very closely with our client base as well as our internal teams to determine what the appropriate approach is going to be to developing our roadmap and putting new technology in place that makes everybody's lives a little bit easier. So that's the goal of today's webinar, is to show you a new development that we have in place that hopefully assists during the process of getting a project set up, coordinating the participants, aligning resources, and then moving everything into an actual research project where you're able to do the data collection within one of our unique activities within the Go platform. So before I jump into the technology and show you some of the features that we're proud to release, I wanted to frame a little bit of the context behind the two programs that we're announcing in conjunction with this very exciting release, and then just give you some context in terms of how it fits into our approach of developing new features and new products here at iTrax. So just moving into one of the very first things I'd like to cover. Back in January, at the start of this year, we met as a team to figure out a way to make our new feature development quicker and more innovative. And so what we decided to do is to take a segment of our larger development team and break it into smaller, more focused teams over certain times throughout the year. So we came up with iTrax Special Operations, and so what this is a team that I oversee, and our primary goal on the Special Operations team is to do very focused innovation projects. And these may be requests that we've received from clients. These may be requests that we've received from our internal departments. But the focus here is just to refine existing processes or introduce new ways of doing things that contribute to the speed and the efficiency of market research. So another focus of this team as well, as we're trying to speed up your processes, is speeding up our processes when it comes to development. So we use a fixed timeline when we're developing new features within this team, and the main question we always ask ourselves is, how can these new developments add immediate value once they're released? So given the quick nature of the development, we also wanted to position those new features and those new approaches within a program that allows us to quickly provide updates and keep that open feedback cycle with our clients. So that moves us into our next program that we're happy to release, and to make available, and that's our release candidate program. And what a lot of technology companies will do is when they're developing a new feature or a new piece of software, instead of releasing it to everybody right off the bat, they will package it into more of an exclusive offering that clients are invited to join. And what this allows us to do is to take the new features that we've developed, whether they're focusing in on a specific item or a specific process, and we can really focus the testing of that in a real live project with a smaller set of clients, kind of dialing into specific requests that we may have received during that process. So as a release candidate, it's considered a final version of the product. However, it does provide us with the opportunity to provide small and minor code updates and adjustments to further stabilize the product before it's released to everyone. So this is a program where for any of the development that happens in special operations or even within some of our other teams, putting it into a release candidate certainly makes it easily accessible much quicker, and then it allows us to, again, if we need to revamp or redesign certain components, we can do that quickly without affecting our larger client base. So the nice thing about the release candidate program is it provides priority access to that new development, as I mentioned earlier. So all of the things that we're going to be covering today, those are contained within the release candidate program and will eventually be graduated to become standard features within our tool. But we wanted to provide priority access to clients who have interest in leveraging those new features and trying them out on client-facing projects. So with those two things in mind, I also wanted to provide a little bit of context on the different development streams that we have the ability to take when we're approaching a new feature or refining our technology in a certain way. So as it relates to the research process or as it relates to our technology, if we structure things as you see here on the screen, looking at the flow of a project, starting with recruitment, our goal here is to always ensure that however we're positioning our development, we're adding value at each step during this process. So there are many different avenues we could take. We could focus in on the recruiting process, so onboarding participants or users, automating certain activities or automating certain tasks that typically are labor intensive, either for the client or for participants. The communication that is sent out from the system, so automating that and kind of integrating it in so that it happens seamlessly in the back end. And then also the research activities, which would ultimately be the main products that as clients you use on a daily basis and you're familiar with, so our board platform or our chat platform or video chat or IDI. So as we look at all of the different areas we could go, you can imagine with all of the requests that we have coming in, it's really important for us to prioritize and to categorize our development and to do it in a strategic manner. So what we decided to do early on is to actually split some of those categories into smaller pieces. And these smaller pieces allow our focus teams, like our special operations team, to narrow down the scope of a development effort and to pick off little sections of those overarching topics that relate to this development stream here. So that's kind of what we've done, and I'll kind of relate back to this once we start discussing both calendar integration and participant time selection. So moving forward here, just to start covering the two items that we've put into the release candidate program. The very first one here is one that flew a little bit under the radar, and it was done so in preparation for participant time selection. You're going to see how this integrates in, but this is still an exciting feature that both of these, but calendar integration in particular, we're really focusing in on participant show rates here with these initiatives. So with calendar integration, basically what this does is this is a process that runs in the background, and for any communication that's sent out from our Go platform using the email broadcaster, essentially what's happening here is we're taking calendar invitations with relevant information to the content you're sending out to participants. So for instance, an activity start time, date, and login information. And what we do is we attach that calendar invitation to that communication that you're sending through. So not only is a participant receiving the actual text-based communication, but they're also receiving that invitation that's going to go into their calendar, regardless of whatever mail client or calendar app they use. And this is just going to provide a secondary touch point outside of the standard communication that a participant received during the course of a project. So with this, those reminders will kick in and allow for a participant to keep organized, especially if they're involved in multiple activities or if they've got a busy schedule. This is just one way to keep everything on track, and hopefully if for reasons of them not joining a discussion earlier, before this was available, hopefully this now promotes that active engagement. So this process, as you'll see, is just kind of tacked on to the communication that's sent out. So the communication area within that pyramid that you saw earlier, that's kind of what that focuses in on. But this relates to time selection, and this is really what we're going to be covering in detail today. So time selection arose very early on, actually, when we released our IDI products, our phone IDI product. One of the very first pieces of feedback that we received from clients who are using it was, this is great, but we would really like the opportunity for participants to select their own time and just cut out that administration through the process and really streamline that. So the initial stories that we worked with here from clients and then both from our internal teams is as a participant, I want to be able to select an activity time that works best for me. And so what we've done is put in the ability for participant dictated scheduling, and that relates into on the moderator side of things. The request was, I want to ensure a healthy participant show rate for my project, so how can I do that? And so the way that we've structured that is just a little bit of an adjustment in the process, which you'll see in a few moments here. But basically, instead of creating our activities and assigning users right away, what we're doing is just sending out an email broadcast at that point, and then the slot assignment that users will go through and basically picking their own time slots. All of that user assignment is automated at that point, and then so forward is the communication that they would receive. So that also stems into on the back end as a project manager, whether it's a iTrack project manager or a client-side project manager, just cutting down on the booking administration time. So that's kind of where that comes into play for that. So again, project level broadcasting, automatic activity assignment, and then again calendar integration on that particular process. So just getting back to this pyramid here, just so you can see where those two features fit in. Calendar integration here is part of our communication stream. So we've carved off a section of that, making progress in that area. And then time selection would fit in kind of in both the user validation and the communication stream. So you can kind of see how preference is kind of taken in terms of the amount of content we're able to kind of take out of this pyramid here with that development in place. So the final thing before we jump into technology is just to provide a quick overview here of the progression of tasks. So when you're setting up a project, or if you have internal resources who are doing this, or even if we're doing it for you here at iTrax, this is the standard flow that a majority of our users will follow. So this is without any of those features taken into consideration. So typically the first thing you're going to do is create a project, and then you're going to do next one of two things. You're either going to load your participants if you have them pre-recruited, and then create the activities, or the other way around. So those two tasks are interchangeable. And then from there, within the old process, once you've loaded your participants, created your activities, you would typically assign your users to those activities. So if you're doing a series of interviews, you'd be assigning the individual participants to the individual time slots you've created manually. And then from there, you would send out an email broadcast to provide communication to the participants to keep everything on track and provide them with the information they need to access the activity. So calendar integration, when we first put that in place, that basically tacked on to an existing process and did not disrupt any of the previous tasks. So from the email broadcast that's sent out, we basically took the activity information and attached it to the email. So what we're doing now with time selection is we're leaving the first three tasks intact. Nothing with those three items changes. The flow that you follow remains as is. But what we've done now is once you've loaded your participants and created your activities, those activities are now positioned as time slots. So they're open, unclaimed slots. And so what we do now is you have the ability now to basically flip those last two tasks that you would typically do. So now, instead of assigning your users, what you're doing is sending out an email broadcast, and that email broadcast is initiating the participant time selection. So for participants to receive that email as part of their registration process now, which you'll see in a few moments, they're able to go through and basically make their selections. So that's what I'm going to show you today, and we feel that this process is certainly going to speed up and make the onboarding process and the registration process for participants much more streamlined and a lot quicker. So the calendar integration piece also works in, and you'll see how that ties in as well. So let me just share my screen here with you, and you can see what I'm doing. So what we have here is just a view of our existing Go platform. This is without the release candidate features turned on. So in your main activities screen as a moderator here, this is where a good chunk of refinements have happened with that release candidate turned on. So you'll notice the activities table without it turned on is the same as it always has been. But now when I go into a project here with it enabled, you're going to see in a few moments here when we create that project, things are going to look a little bit different here. So we're going to go in and create a new project. And what I'm going to do here is we're just going to name this project here. So time selection. And I'll go next. And this is a new feature we've added. It's basically the ability to quickly add time slots. So for you to go in, and if you wanted to create your activities at this time, just to create your open slots, you could do that. Or you can save this till when you're actually in the project. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a series of slots here. So we're going to be creating a series of IDI slots. So I'm just going to name this IDI 1. And I'm going to set these to start starting tomorrow, and we'll start those at 9 a.m. and then we'll set those for an hour. So this is basically how you're creating your slots. So as a moderator or as a project manager, you're going to go through and basically put in the system all of the potential times that you would be running an interview. And the more times you create, the better it is for participants because they have more options. So as I'm going through, I'm going to copy this, and we'll just go 2. We'll start this one at 10. I'll copy that, make this 3. And we'll start that one at noon. And then I'll do 4. We'll start this one on the Friday. We'll start that at 10 a.m. And then we'll do 5. And I will start this on Friday as well, and we'll do that at 2 p.m. So I'll just create 5 slots here real quick, and I'll click Next. And at this point, you could assign your project level users, so your moderators or observers at this point, but we'll just skip that step and save this and actually get into the project here. So once that saves, what we're going to see here is just the registration page for my moderator user. Click Save. And now we're in the project here. So you can see now the view is a little bit different. So instead of having just one activities table, we have two tables here. And this bottom table is our available slots. So since we haven't assigned any users, they remain in that bottom table. And eventually what's going to happen as we add users and start claiming times, those slots will empty into that top table here. So what I can do now is I could create more slots if I wanted to, but what I'm going to do is go into my users page here, and we're going to load some users in and then send out an email broadcast and start selecting some times. So I'm just going to import a user list. And you could create these manually or you can pull these in from a file, but we'll just click select, and I will go in and select that Excel sheet that I put in place and click import. So now I've created 4 users here, and the next step in the process would be to send out an email broadcast to those users to let them know that there are time slots available for them to choose from. So what I'm going to do is go into my broadcast area, and here we can see that we've got our 5 upcoming IDI slots that remain unclaimed. I'm just going to go to my unassigned users. We'll select all of them, and I'll click next. And I have all of these emails being sent to the same account here, so you'll be able to see what that looks like on my screen. But you'll notice here, when we get to the template section, we've created a new system template for you to use, and it's called the activity time selection template. And what this does is basically notifies participants that they've been conditionally qualified for a study, and their job now is to go in and actually log in and register. So I'm going to send this broadcast out. And what I can do now is we'll just open up my email. You can probably hear my phone in the background too, so I'll show you what mobile looks like as well. But here, I'll just select one of these users. And this is what that email will look like for a participant. So if I go in now and just click registration and login page, I'll click that link. What this is going to do is take me to the standard participant login page that we would have seen beforehand. And what we've done is basically place the time selection page as the next thing in the order of operations for participants here. So what I can see now is, as a participant, all of the available slots that I've created as a moderator. So as a participant, I'm able to go through now and review these times, and if I do need to view them at a different time zone, I can do that here as well. But for me to go in and select a time, I can go in and select that and click next. What this does is provides me with an activity confirmation, so I can see a little bit of details about the activity itself. And then as a participant, I can click save, and now I'm pushed to the standard activity screen that a participant would have seen earlier anyways. We've provided a little bit of information about the product that's being used. So in this case, it's a phone IDI. And the nice thing as well is this activity is now booked and assigned, all dictated by the participant. And if I go back to my email, I'll actually see that I've automatically received my information to participate in the IDI itself. So I have all of the information I need to join this activity, as well as the calendar invitation, which is leveraging that integration we talked about earlier. So I'm actually able to assign this and add this to my calendar as a participant. So makes it very easy for participants, very seamless, and very quick for them to go through and select those times. And if I go in as a moderator now, I'll just resize this screen here so I can bring up my mobile device. But going into the activities page, what I'm able to see is now we have a slot that's been claimed. And this is going to be basically dynamically updating as your project is running. So I can go through and confirm that IDI 3 here has been claimed by our participant that we went through and registered as. So we can see that participant 1 here has been assigned to the activity. So you're going to basically see these slots start emptying out into the top table. And we've also provided information here for how many seats are available. So if you're doing IDIs, it's 1 of 1 participants, it's full. And you're able to actually, as a moderator, pull that into your calendars and view those invites if you need to keep organized within your own email client. So what I wanted to do real quick as well is just go through and assign myself as a a user from mobile, just so you can see what that looks like. We're under the assumption that a majority of these registrations and user assignments and time selections are going to be happening from mobile because of the convenience. So we wanted to make sure that when I click on these links from mobile, that those are fully mobilized pages that they're going into as well. So for the registration page that you saw earlier on the web version, here's what it looks like from mobile. So I'll just set a password here. And accept the terms of service, and we'll click Save. So now the next screen that you're going to see is that same time selection grid that we saw from the web version here. So again, I can go through and assign myself to a slot, and same activity confirmation that I would have seen on the web version. And when I click Save, that information is now available here for me to see. I see that I've claimed that activity, and then if I go back into my email on my phone, I'll also see that the actual activity has been added to my phone here as well. So the calendar invite is in place, and I'm able to see that in my calendar on my phone if I need to. So just refreshing the moderator interface, we're able to see that that slot has now been claimed. One quick thing here, I know that we're getting close on our time, is one more option that participants have now, and this is some new functionality that we've put in place. I'm going to go through real quick again and just register as one other participant here. And just get that put in place. Accept. One of the things that we wanted to have available to participants is we're operating on the assumption that this whole process is going to be an on first come first served basis. So if you're creating slots, and let's say you're running a series of 15 or 20 interviews, those slots are going to be claimed basically as soon as participants start receiving those emails. So if it gets down to an area of the recruit where, or of the participant onboarding process where a participant might not be able to use any of the remaining slots in terms of their availability, they may want a different option. What we've put in place is the ability for participants, once they see this screen, there's a button at the bottom here that says none of these times work for me. So what I can do is actually click on that. And what this does is presents a participant with the option of going on standby. And this standby logic, you can bundle an additional incentive into this if you wish. This text area is fully customizable on the project level, but accepting the option to go on standby basically allows a participant to say, okay, what we do is basically say, here are the times that have been booked. If a participant doesn't show up for that interview, you're next in line. So go through and select the times that you could be made available. So what we've done here is just made it a multi-select. So I could be available at 10 a.m., but I could also be available at 12 p.m. here. So when I click next, same flow, but the only difference is these aren't actual activities I'm being assigned to, they're just standby activities. So I could click save, and what that does is then shows me the same activity screen. I still have the ability to pull these down as calendar invites and save them in my device, but until I'm actually assigned to those activities, that's where I'm then going to see all of the emails that come through and all of the information to actually gain access to the system. And just to confirm, if I go back into the web version here, we'll see that if I click on the user access, we'll see that we have our assigned participant, and then we also have our standby participant here. So, you know, if this first participant doesn't show up, I could easily go in and just assign our standby participant, and then they would gain access to the discussion itself. So that basically covers some of the primary functionality with time selection and how it's structured. What we're doing now is going through a process of further stabilizing the product. So there are little things that do come up where clients are providing feedback saying, you know, it'd be really nice if you know, this feature was in place for notifications, or you know, if we could have this flow changed a little bit. So basically at this point, as someone who is joining into the release candidate program, it comes down to let's just have a conversation about any potential projects that are coming up where you feel like these features may be of value, and then at that point it's very easy for us to enable everything that you've seen here within your account on a project level, and have you be able to experience this and use it for an upcoming project. So you should have received some information about the Release Candidate Program and about time selection already. If you haven't, we can certainly follow up with a copy of the recording as well as the PDF documents that kind of explain the program a little bit more. But eventually, after we've kind of tested this out and ran a few projects with clients, we'll then start the process to basically graduate these features into our standard code base and make them available for everyone outside of the program as well. So these will just eventually become standard functionality within the system. So Colin, that is basically all of the information I had to cover today. So.
Great, thank you, Bob. That was a great job. We will now move on to our question and answer session. So please, if you have any questions, enter them into the chat pane of GoToWebinar, and we'll try to address as many as we can here without running too long. So Bob, first of all, I just wanted to ask if you could touch upon some people have had issues where participants maybe are not updating their computer with the correct time zone. So how does the time selection work with time zones and the calendar invites?
That's a great question. So with the time zones, from a development perspective, it's something that we face kind of on a daily basis here as well, because you know, we have clients in many different markets, and so we need to make sure that any of the features we're putting in place take time zones into consideration. So one of the first things that we wanted to put in place here, and if I just jump back into one quick registration page, let me just see here. I've got the one thing we wanted to do is make sure that as a participant is registering, I'll just get that time selection grid showing here again. We wanted to make sure that the times that are being presented, so the times that you're seeing right now, these are being presented as the project time. So you can see that we've set our project to be in the Saskatchewan time zone. So you could set this to Pacific or East. Those are the times that are being presented to participants. Now, as a participant, I could go in and say, I want to see these in Eastern time. So changing that changes the time zone of those tiles. So as a participant is selecting the time they'd like to choose, throughout that process from that point forward, we're going to make sure that that time zone sticks with the participant. And then when they receive the calendar invite, it's going to be respecting the time that they picked, and then also localize it based on what the time zone of the device is set to. So even if I haven't changed my time zone as a participant, what's going to happen is if I set an interview time for 10 a.m. Eastern and I have a participant who's on the West Coast, selecting that time, as that invite is added to their calendar, it will make that adjustment, and just to ensure that that participant shows up at the proper time given the time difference.
Great, and we had a couple questions asking about the types of research projects that this could be utilized with. So obviously IDI was specifically mentioned several times, but what other products would utilize these features?
That's a great question. The nice thing with time selection is it's applicable to any real-time activities that you do within the system here. So whether it's a series of one-on-one interviews, whether you're leveraging iTraxx IDI or iTraxx video chat, you can certainly use that functionality that we went through today, but it's also applicable to groups. And for the groups, whether they're video chat groups or chat groups, one of the things you're going to notice is when you're creating activities here, we've actually put in place an option for you to record the number of participants that will be included in that study. So as I'm going through here, I'll just create a test chat. If I'm having 8 people join this chat, we'll just set this for next week, and we'll make it a 2-hour discussion. The same process exists, so I could go in and assign my users manually, but if I save this right now, what it's going to do is it's going to show up in that bottom table because no one's actually gone through and claimed one of these seats. So instead of a single slot, now they're claiming seats, and you can see here we have 0 of 8 participants. So as soon as someone goes through and claims a seat, what happens is that activity moves up into this top table, and it's then up to the moderator to determine, based on the number of seats that are filled, whether or not they'd like that group to proceed. So sometimes moderators will say, you know, if we have any less than 4, we'll just rebook or kind of extend or change the start date of that chat. So this gives you some insight into how full that discussion is, and whether or not you'd like to proceed, we leave that up to you as a moderator. But once 8 of 8 seats are full, that actual activity will no longer show up in the time selection grid for participants. However, if they say none of these times work for me, they would still be able to assign themselves as a standby option for that activity.
Great, thanks Bob. And thank you to everyone who joined us for today's webinar. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. If you're interested in joining the Release Candidate program to test out our newest features, including calendar integration and time selection, please reach out and contact us. We'd love to hear from you. You can contact us by visiting www.itrax.com. Additionally, we will be following up shortly with a link to the recording of today's webinar. Thanks again and have a great day.